All right, so in this video, this is actually going to serve as my Microsoft Sentinel Part 2 demonstration. For those of you who have watched my original home lab, the one with the eCourt domain controller and the one WAN and two LAN interfaces on the pfSense and whatnot, this is actually that same domain controller. And what I decided to do was go on ahead and connect this domain controller to my Azure tenant so that I can begin ingesting data from this DC into my Azure environment. As you can see, if I click on local server, you will see that the domain is ecorp.local and the domain controller is named ecorp.dc. Now, for the purpose of the lab, what I had to do was get access to an actual public domain. So what I did was, if I go to Tools, Active Directory Domains and Trusts, ecorp.local, More Actions, and Properties. What you'll see is that I have an alternative UPN suffix called ecorp.fit. Now that domain is actually being hosted through namecheap.com, which is a domain registrar that's holding the public records for this domain. And so what I had to do was add a text record from Azure to the domain registrar for this domain so it could, contact it, and also for Azure to verify that I actually do own a public domain. And otherwise, this lab would have never worked. So anyways, that's set up, and the only thing I really wanted to show you beyond that for the domain controller for this video is just my users and computers. Now, all of these will be synced over through Intra. I have a couple of admin accounts here as well as some dummy accounts. So this John JD Doe is actually the account that we will be focusing on for this particular demonstration. So the rest don't really matter as much. But anyways, I am going to switch over to Azure now. All right, should have it open here. All right, so we are now currently in my Azure tenant. So what we will do now is go to Microsoft Entra ID. And we should find all the user accounts there fully synced over. Yep, there we go. So there is the John Doe account. There's my account. I guess technically all of these are my account though. So, but anyways, here are all the accounts that were synced over. And now what I want to do is actually go over to, let's go to Sentinel. We will go to the workspace here, as Sentinel cannot work without one. And then what we will do before we go into logs and type in KQL queries here, we will go to the data connectors so that I can show you the different connectors that I have installed. But specifically what we're going to be focusing on is the Entra ID connector, just to show you that there is data being ingested from on-prem AD to Azure Sentinel. And as you can see, there's already 286 non-interactive sign-in logs here. If I go to the connector page, it'll give you some more information. These are all the logs that I currently have being pulled into Sentinel. But for the sake of the lab, what we want to focus on in particular are the sign-in logs here. All these other logs are great, but yeah, that's going to be our area of focus. So what I'm going to do now is go over to the log analytics. And this is essentially going to take me to the logs tab that you can find under Sentinel's homepage. We are going to open a new query, and what we're going to do is look into, or I guess call to, the sign-in logs table. And we're going to search for logs pertaining to that John Doe account from earlier. So sign-in logs, where user display name equals John JD Doe. So we'll click run, and we should see a few logs here. There we go. So we see 3 logs here. Now, from a cybersecurity perspective, let's say we were under the assumption that somebody may have compromised John's account. What we can do is immediately go in here, look at the data that was ingested by Entra, and we can already see that the sign-in attempt failed 3 times. Now, I generated this not necessarily on purpose because I was having a password hash synchronization issue earlier trying to sign into this account. So don't take this too literally, but let's say somebody did try to log into this account but couldn't. What we can do is look at all this information here. So we have a results description, and it'll tell you due to a configuration change made by the administrator, blah blah blah. Authentication failed due to a flow token expired. Yeah, essentially, like I said before, Azure AD Connect and password hash synchronization were not configured properly, so I had to go in and change that. And now I should be able to log into this John Doe account. As a matter of fact, we can test that here. So what I will do is go on ahead and I'll open an incognito window actually. And then just to confirm, I'll go to portal.office.com and then sign to John Doe under that ecorp.fit account. So jdoe at ecorp.fit. And then the password, if I can remember, it should be. All right. Yep. And now it looks like it's trying to yeah, it's asking me to set up authenticator. So what I'm going to do is actually pause the video. I'm going to set this account up and then also see if we can find the log attached to it. So I will pause the video here. All right, now I was able to go on here and add authentication to it. So now what we will try and do is sign to this account again. Well, actually, looks like I don't have to sign to it again, and we don't need to stay signed into it for now. Yeah, so it should be logging me into portal.office.com. It should be taking me to MD65. Yep. All right, cool. So this sign in was successful. I should also be able to go to Azure AD and sign in with this account, but it's gonna have limited permissions, I believe. So yeah, there you go. Yep, so as you can see, I am logged in as John Doe. This is not a global admin, but this is a domain administrator account under the on-premises AD. So yeah, looks like password hash synchronization worked just fine. It looks like this account as well as the other accounts should be able to access Azure, Intra, etc. So now we will go back to our logs, and I'm not entirely sure how long it will take for the data to ingest for that sign in. Not sure if it's instantaneous or not, but I can run the query again. Let's see here. Yes, it'll probably take a minute, but it should absolutely show up. But anyways, beyond just searching for the display name, another thing we can do is we want to filter specifically by result signature, for example. We can just do equals failure. Run that. Yeah, so I forgot that yeah, it's supposed to be contains instead of equals there. So yep, that's another way that we can filter KQL queries, and there's several other ways. But as you can see, there's a lot of different information. It'll give you like location. It'll give you the resource group, identity. I think you can even do it by like IP addressing and conditional access policies. Essentially, all these fields can be interacted with and used to filter out KQL queries. Now, admittedly, at this stage, I am still learning KQL queries by heart. But another methodology that you can use for KQL queries is to just use something like Copilot. But of course, I would also make sure that I manually review those queries to make sure I know what I'm actually entering before I enter any data into here. And for best practices, anything when it comes to like scripting or KQL, SQL, what have you, it's always good to double check if you are going to use some sort of automation tool. All right, and after giving it some time, we have a successful sign-in log for John Doe right here. It says success. Let's just confirm the account name, jdoe at ecorp.com. And you can even see that the app that signed into both the Azure portal and Office Home. So it is very detailed. and it can be tailored to however you really need to when it comes to organizing your data. Doing your own personal reconnaissance from a blue team perspective. It doesn't necessarily, it obviously doesn't have to be John Doe. It could really be any user, or it could even be multiple users. So if I were to do something like John Doe or and then user display name equals, and then run the query again, and now instead of just John Doe logs, I also have logs for Patrick Medley, which is yours truly. So as you can see here, I've logged in quite a few times here through my ecorp.fit as well as my original global admin account. And as you can see, it gives all the information along with JDoe. So again, Sentinel is absolutely an excellent way to ingest data, survey data, categorize and log data, and use it for troubleshooting cybersecurity incidents. But honestly, I have shown quite a bit already. So what I'm going to do now is going in this video. As usual, I appreciate you guys watching. And for those who have not taken a look at my eCorp lab setup yet, where I've configured multiple things, including Sysmon for a Windows 11 host machine, as well as Kali Linux that I plan on using as an attack box. I have a Metasploitable VM. Of course, you also saw the domain controller already. And I'm really gonna do several different things with that lab in particular, but for this one, the objective is to not only demonstrate my expertise, but also continue to learn about security information and event management, the different use cases that it has, and how it can really be used to troubleshoot cybersecurity incidents, and as well as understand attacker methodology and blue team methodology. But anyways, I've said enough as usual. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.